Something I like to do every once in a while is pick a random comic book character and read through all their stories. Sometimes I succeed, finishing off Steel Sterling and Judge Dredd and giving myself the ultimate in tonal whiplash, and sometimes I run out of steam and put things on hold, like when I tried going through every Fantastic Four and Spidey story. But regardless of whether or not I finish off my read throughs, it's always super fun going back to the very beginnings of so many iconic characters and discovering things that nobody really talks about from these early runs. And recently, I wanted to read through the original Flash because I noticed that prior to the iconic Crisis on Infinite Earth story, nobody really talks about Flash's early stories. And my god, I do not see how that's possible because literally every single one of these stories are fucking insane. Like, there is stuff here that literally no modern comic book could ever do again, simply because of how out there and random this comic can get. Okay, reading Silver Age Flash puts you in a stage of enlightenment for giving you massive brain damage. And I have seen this comic go in explanation overload to justify the literal impossible so many times that I firmly believe a part of my brain has been irreversibly hardwired to believe whatever Gardner Fox and Carmine Infantino tell me. Like, here's a good example. In only the second appearance of Captain Boomerang, the funny guy from Suicide Squad that Amanda Waller hates, Boomerang rigs a robbery to occur so that a boomerang will fly in and steal gems. The trick is that Boomerang is there on the ground before the boomerang flies in, giving him an alibi. Having grown up on Monk reruns, I tried to solve this mystery before the explanation, and thought, oh, he must have made a device to shoot the boomerangs from a vantage point at a certain time of day, and get there before the timer goes off. That sounds reasonable, right? No. What happens is, somehow, between his first and last appearance, this one man has figured out how to create boomerangs that can travel through time, and invented time-traveling boomerangs that transport into the future. Flash never figured this out either, by the way, but Flash can't spend too long thinking about this either, because aliens from the 110th dimension think the time boomerangs are an attack and invade the Earth. So Boomerang, Wannabe Plastic Man, and the Flash have to fight aliens because of a guy inventing time travel. They somehow win, but before the day's over, Boomerang kidnaps Flash and puts him on a giant boomerang designed to orbit the moon, which was the exact same trap the Flash escaped from the first time Boomerang appeared. But Flash reversed the trajectory, came back, and sent him back to jail because Boomer forgot to wear gloves before handling his time-traveling boomerangs. Mind you, this is 17 pages. Not even the full comic. There's another story here about some bullshit with television mind control. In 17 pages, all of this happens. Oh, by the way, Boomerang never does this again. Like, ever. It's actually a recurring thing where Flash rogues will do something that breaks all laws of reality, and then never do it again. Captain Cold, the guy whose whole gimmick is cold, figures out a way to reverse aging. It's not even a mirage or optical illusion, there's no explanation provided, he just reverses the aging process. I don't even know if he ever does this again, I don't think he does. Which is really, 210 is actually a very special issue, because, you see, in the year 2971, the endangered human race, who's been at war with East Earth, a very tasteful depiction of different races, I'm sure, figures out their only option is to revive the conscience of Abraham Lincoln and put him in an android to lead them. Only the East Earthers realize this and make android John Wilkes Booth to atomize Lincoln, only Lincoln predicted this and de-atomized himself intentionally to fit in Wilkes Booth's laser gun, so that after he inevitably gets destroyed by the same gun, he can reform and assault the dictator of East Earth. But by the way, Flash is there too. He drills Lincoln through the earth and back to where he belongs. One issue for all of this. Now, as curious viewers may very well be wondering, why the hell Flash and his wife are in 2971? Now, that's very simple. You see, Iris West, here everybody knows her, she's from the TV show and all that, is actually not a person of the present, but her parents are from the year 2971, and right before being nuked, sent her all the way back to 1940-something, and it's only after finding a locket with a telepathic message to return and marry the dictator of East Earth as a peace offering does she super vibrate into the future, leaving Barry Allen in the present. Naturally, not wanting to be made an interstellar time cuck, Barry travels to the future, has a battle to the death, only not really because Comics Code still doesn't like having too many dead guys on screen, and keeps Iris in the present. But wait, there's more. Somehow, time travel radiation has made the locket she's wearing make her intrinsically tell the truth about everything, no matter what, and have to blurt it out, which causes all kinds of hell when she literally tries to name the entire Justice League's secret identity at some trial for some losers that no one cares about. Mind you, this whole problem is solved by putting her locket in a jewelry box and never comes up again. Double mind you, this all occurs in the course of 2 issues. I think I'm in love with this comic. There's this bright, playful innocence and overwhelming imagination present in these Flash comics that overcomes being trite like other similar off-parodied comics DC was putting out at the same time. A lot of said creativity can be attributed to just how much Fox and Infantino and others strive to make Super Speed both visually interesting and absurdly overpowered. The sequences of Super Speed repairing structures or Flash becoming multiple people by going so fast, or fucking moving every individual atom in his body on multiple occasions, each more fucking insane than the last. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, he is literally a goddamn neon sign that says "Eat it, Joe's." The constant upping of the absurd and frequently new and innovative ways the writers use super speed are honestly a delight. I'm not sure what kind of logic I could say the series runs on, but I can't argue with the results. That being a fantastic comic with strong art and colorful, vibrant imagination that fully grabs the reader and makes them pay attention to every long-winded explanation and every out-there premise. When The Flash as we know him debuted, the superhero genre was pretty much dead in the water, but like a lightning bolt, Infantino and company revitalized an entire genre, and it's no wonder why a series so boundlessly creative managed to kickstart a whole new wave of interest in Cape Comics. But as much as I do love the first 100 or so issues of The Flash, my god, do I need to talk about how much I hate Iris West? It's almost comical how for a series that in every other manner was a trendsetter, doing something unique from everybody else, its primary source of human character drama is a dull leftover from the golden age of comics. Iris has no character, no depth, or nuance in these early appearances. She's the character to get stood up for a date by Barry and later insult Barry for not living up to the standards of the costume do-gooder she's best friends with. This shtick was tired black when the Black Terror was doing it. Seeing it constantly utilized here in an otherwise fantastic run really sours everything because while obviously not on par with the character work Marvel was doing at the time, Flash actually has much more solid focus on character drama than its fellow DC books. Whereas other heroes were fighting the same dudes on repeat or dealing with truly terrible original foes, to be forgotten by the turn of the decade, Flash actually had a solid understanding of character drama. There's a storyline with Mr. Element, a one-time Flash rogue who's trying to reform but is mentally unwell and keeps getting pushed in bad directions by various outside sources. And while it's not particularly deep, it's an interesting dynamic of a hero actively trying to reform their foes rather than just socking him in the jaw and calling it until next week. It's also helped by the rogues just in general being great fun to read about. Their gimmicks are creative, their personalities are fun to read about, and the way they bring personal strife into Barry's life trying to juggle 2 lives is very interesting. These stories set the standard for a hero who cares deeply for his enemies that we see in the modern Flash comics. Furthermore, what I find interesting is that despite being a trendsetter from the get-go, the Flash begins to chase trends as the decade changes. As soon as issue 200 hits, arguably slightly earlier than that, things take a dramatic change. There's a strong focus on romantic chemistry between Alan and Iris. We've seemingly changed locales as our 2 lovebirds have moved into suburbia, and there's a much stronger focus on character drama of not just the Flash, but the rogues and their personal squabbles, combined with Iris feeling increasingly distanced from her husband as he continues his crime-fighting career well into their marriage, as well as a new focus on Flash's inner thoughts, make for a much more character-driven read-through. And, well, yes, superficially speaking, this is a good thing. I almost resent this attempt to keep up with the times, as the wildly out-there scenarios get toned down in an effort to focus on frequently sitcom-tier drama. There's an entire comic where he spends the whole day chasing after an issue of Flash 25 and comes home in time for supper. The wild imagination that made the prior issues so much fun, while still there, is either more often than not clashing in frankly terrible ways with the new character-driven direction the series takes. A good example would be that fucking insane My Wife is Actually from the Future story, which followed immediately after a story where Flash fought a small-time cult that had embedded itself into his neighborhood, it creates these jarring tonal shifts that come off more as bad writing than a talented writer trying his best to come up with an out there concept. But even though I'm much colder on these issues, I still think they're pretty good. I'll highlight being the Top's last crime, which sees a deceased Top carry out a posthumous death trap designed to destroy the whole city unless the rogues beat the Flash and save the day. It's a really great tale, and as a side note, what the fuck was wrong with the Top? The Reverse Flash, the guy everybody memes about being the ultimate hater and all that shit, when he started out he just wanted money. Captain Cold wanted hoes, Trickster just likes fighting the Flash, everybody else just wanted money, but the very first time Top showed up, he was determined to nuke half the planet for some reason. Yes, viewer, the most bloodthirsty villain of the Flash, early on, was the little bitch that plays with tops and spins around in a circle. I'd begun to notice very quickly that, as strange as it might sound, pre-Crisis Flash is almost representative as DC Comics as a comics company prior to Crisis. They started out as a trendsetter on the very tip-top of the comic scene, but eventually began to try and imitate the competition to find success, and eventually in trying to out-gimmick them, winding up in catastrophic failure, and by the early 80s finding themselves in a pseudo-identity crisis, before a dramatic overhaul, of course. I would like to reiterate that gimmick aspect, because in the 70s DC had this grand idea of the 100-page giant, a regular series but mostly filled with reprint material. This would be forgivable, but it leads to several issues, sometimes back-to-back, being filled with just reprints of better stories, and what would then be an absurd markup price. DC probably realized too late that this may have been a colossal dumb fuck idea, because by the end of the 70s, they had the DC implosion, which saw around 40% of their titles get cancelled. I almost have to wonder if the implosion messed up more than just the reported titles, because prior to the implosion, it really seemed like the series was going somewhere new and interesting with the dramatic death of Iris Allen and some interesting characters appearing. And then we reached the 300s, and oh my god, I do not know what the hell happened, but there is at least 4 to 5 dropped plot points and characters that never reappear again. Here's just a couple that I can remember off the top of my head. Number 1, Ibis the Invincible, the Golden Age hero, became a villain. Only there was an implication he'd go back to being a hero, and then this is never brought up again ever. 2, during this time Barry and Iris were together, they were friends with a politician who got sniped. So that guy's daughter moved in with them, and she does this shit, and then never shows up again in any kind of exit or reappearance after the death of Iris. 3, so prior to the whole dead wife thing, this weird woman had been stalking Barry and going to areas where he used super speed. She's like a super powerful telepath, apparently, who kidnaps him, calls him mid, and then get with him after Iris dies, at 16, by the way. It's fucking hell. And then helps Flash find a psycho killer, and she just disappears after this and is never brought up again. That's just the ones I remember that they forgot about. Can you imagine the ones they forgot about that I forgot, that they forgot? Could be. Remember what I said about the series giving you brain damage? Alright, back on topic. Issue 300 onward is a complete mess. It should be this very interesting character study about a broken man building himself back up after a dramatic tragedy, but for some reason the series tries to combine what early and later Flash had done, and oh my god in heaven, does this not work? Here's an example. There's this really cool mystery going on where after a car accident, Flash's dad has been plotting on killing him. It's a very interesting subplot where you're trying to figure out what's going on and what's going to happen. And then it's revealed the dead Top, at the moment of the car crash, stole his body and got together with his supervillain girlfriend who had been spending 3 months trying to cuck the Flash. Also, the Top just gets sent to hell after this, I think, because he was dead for a while. And then there's Computron, the most absurdly boring Flash rogue I can think of, whose whole gimmick is, ooh, who could it be in this family that's doing it? Ooh. And then they never tell us, and Computron gets written out because this is... look at this is hideous. Oh my god. And it gets made worse that Barry's original cast has now been completely replaced with idiot, black friend, nerd friend, girlfriend. I'm being serious. So many of these characters are so absurdly one note. It's like we've somehow regressed back to the golden age in some aspects. During this time, Barry meets a new woman named Fiona who he attempts to marry, and right before he can reverse, Flash shows up and tries to kill him, and Flash fucking breaks his neck. Now, the death of Iris Allen was very good, because not only had Iris grown more as a character, but at the same time there was an intense emotional connection by virtue of being the character we all started the series with. But this repeat of events, while cathartic, just doesn't hit the same at all because Fiona has no personality. She's hardly in the book prior to her going insane from being stood up by Barry, who's busy, breaking Soom's neck. This leads to the only real pre-crisis Barry Allen story people actually know about. The trial of Barry Allen, and you know what? It's pretty good, I think. The two initially conflicting tones are merged together much better. There's some really good human drama from Barry, and the actual court case elements are good. This would be a good storyline with great twists and villain set pieces, if not for two things. First, and less egregious, during the court case, Flash has to deal with this new foe being manipulated by his rogues called Big Sur. I'm not being mean when I say this, okay, but Big Sur is a mental retard with a Lenny complex for cute animals and absurdly hocus strength. And I mean, good God in heaven, look at that. So, what does Flash do to avoid having to hurt Big Sur in a real fight? I want y'all to listen very carefully for this. Flash uses a mental retard in an Iron Man suit to beat up all of his enemies for him before taking him to his psychic monkey friends, who surgically removed the retardation from him, thus making him a regular human being. Keep in mind, at some point, some editor probably coked out of their minds had to read this and approve of this prior to publishing. And the second part is, towards the end of the trial, Barry and his rogues, after a guilty verdict, go after a surprisingly good twist villain who had been orchestrating stuff during the trial. It felt like a solid last hurrah, and then and there, all that matters was the landing. And in a move of profound stupidity, Flash is brought to the future of of Iris Allen, who milliseconds before Zoom fucking drilled his hand into her brain. Her soul got transmitted across time and space into a clone body for the now exonerated Barry to Bone in the future after watching her boyfriend cuck her with Fiona. This is just fucking terrible writing. This is awful. It cheapened so many other better stories, and it's not helped that prior to this, Flash had been rapidly declining in quality. It feels less like an organic, happy ending to the character, and more or less just the creative team giving up because they know that in a week or two they're going to kill him off in Crisis. In summary, The Flash is an interesting series because though through it, you can really see how DC changed as a company throughout the decades. Frequently imaginative, often insane. However, the final arc has this somewhat ruined poignancy to it that's hard to criticize. It started out as a revitalization of a dead genre, a metaphorical bolt of lightning to revive interest in superheroes, and it was great. It had this vibrant, often incomprehensible imagination and fantastic set-piece design to it, making it something truly, absurdly great. But then something changed, the industry, and so in turn so did the series. It became more quiet. Suburban characters got the chance for more development, and while superficially this is better, I can't really say that because in chasing trends, Flash lost something very special, in the casual absurdity that had once littered every issue. And when said absurdity shows up again, it becomes absurdly jarring and unable to fit into the long-running tales the series had been making at that point. Fortunately, we reach a high point with the death of a series mainstay that by any other standard should have been an untouchable character. It injects a new life into a series that had at one point been a trendsetter as opposed to a trend chaser. And then the 300s occur and oh my god, no, nothing here happens that is good. The sleepy, more character-focused drama of the 200s is merged with the wild out there concepts of the 100s, and holy shit, most of the time, this just absurdly does not work in any way, shape, or form. I won't say it's bad, but it happens so absurdly, so strange, and oftentimes comes off as boring. Character beats and subplots are rushed, dropped, and forgotten and reworked in the dumbest ways possible. Barry's new side cast sucks so much. Like Barry's frankly annoying police captain friend who made himself Ma Hunkle-esque superhero, or the supremely bland Fiona, made to fill the gap Iris left, who was frankly just not a real character. Like, I gave Iris shit at first, but at least she developed. Fiona just stays bland, but then something else happens. One more shift, and we land in the Trial of the Flash, a story arc meant to break and reconstruct the Flash. The longest and possibly most plot-heavy story arc of Flash, since it's also the only real story arc. And strange for a while. While it's messy in some ways, it works. It's tight, it's focused, and there's plenty of creative twists and turns that make stellar use of the bizarre nature of Silver Age Flash. The character drama is palpable and heart-wrenching, but then, not satisfied with an okay twist and having Flash and the Rogues overcome the villain, the series figures, fuck it, it's Crisis, might as well just do whatever, and revives the long-dead Iris and banishes the Flash to the future after a terribly constructed and stupid explanation. It's frankly insulting and poorly handled, like a lot of later Flash, but even then I cannot bring myself to dislike it, because I don't think there's a better way to describe the series than that. Regardless of how flawed, contrived, and downright retarded the series gets at its core, it's an excuse for writers and artists to go wild, to do stuff that could never fly in professional works. Flash is a lot of things. A revitalization of a dead genre, a reflection of DC for the years prior to Crisis, a great melodrama, a messy cape book, but above else, it's a damn good time and a damn fine superhero story that I think more people should check out. That's all I got for y'all today. Peace, y'all.